What's up, brothers and sisters? Your brother G World 7_D. I'm gonna do a history video, but I just want to say this right quick. I always tell you to continue to study your history, to continue to learn your history, continue to master your true history, because we've been heavily bombarded with lies. I say that constantly over and over and I'm going to continue to say that. Um, you know, there are many people who are on the internet, and I check out different people's pages who continue to give misinformation to our people. And some of these individuals, you can tell they're not of our lineage or they're half, and they make ignorant statements and make dumpster statements about Aboriginal Americans. Number one, let's get this clear: we're not Africans. And anyone who continues to preach that African nonsense to Aboriginal Americans is a sellout. I'm serious. Not every single black person is an African. You have black people all over the world. I've said this over and over again. From, you can say, from Africa all the way over to Australia. You have black people, indigenous black people. They've been there. Right? Stop saying that every single black person you see is an African. You're taking away their identity, and you're also making them a foreigner in their own land, which they're not foreigners. But you want to make everybody African. That is very cheap. That is very, to me, is insulting. And but more than that, you're not taking the time and doing deep research on the different types of black people globally. You're not taking the time, so you just being lazy to say they're African. And you have a bunch of idiots who are pushing that nonsense on YouTube, man. Who push that nonsense that we're just slaves and we come from Africa. Because some of them, they have been heavily indoctrinated of this African worship. Some of them are dating or marrying somebody who's African, whatever. So they believe that deep down inside, to identify themselves as an American or wherever they're from is inferior. That they have to call themselves African, which is insulting. I mentioned before, there's monuments in here that are 7,000, 10,000 years old, or even older than that, or 3,000 years older than the pyramids of Giza. I mentioned that in other videos. But we have continued to believe that we, quote, African. And we allow outsiders to have a voice in our history. They should have no voice. I shouldn't have to hear Jabari or Garfield say anything because they're not of our lineage. They shouldn't be seeing a damn thing in our history. But see, some of you Negroes allow that because you just see black skin. You need to wake up from that. Not every single so-called melanated person is our brother and sister. You have to understand that. You have to look out for your home base first. And many of you Negroes don't want to do that. But like I said before, we've been here. Right? Do not let nobody make you a foreigner in your own land. Do not allow some outsiders sit there and tell you that you're African, which you're not. Like I said before, anyone who's still pushing that term African American or say that we're descendants of slaves is a sellout. I'm going to tell you right now, we're not descendants of slaves. Some of my ancestors might have been the slaves. Some of them were, but we're not descendants of slaves. Even the ones that were enslaved, we're not descendants of the slaves. We're descendants of the Aboriginal black people who are already here, who someone were captured and made prisoners of war. But see, you're going to have to do the research, man. The information's there, but you're going to really have to do the research. And some of you don't want to do the research. You just want to be accepted by white daddy and mommy. And that's sick. And that is a big problem that we're having. You have to let the white folks go, man. Some of you Negroes are going to have to let them white folks go. But not only that, I think some of you Negroes need to get out of this Pan-African stuff, because that's very destructive, and we get to show that sticking to that, because we're not Africans. We are indigenous Aboriginal Americans. Stop allowing these outsiders to make you a foreigner in your land. I've said that over and over again. I'm going to continue to say this. Stop allowing foreigners make you a foreigner in your own land. You're not a foreigner here. This is your land. When people ask you where you're from, you hold your 2 feet down. Tell them who the hell you are. You are an American. You're not African. If they want to be ignorant and still ask you that dumbass question, then you just go and just mind your business. Just ignore them. They're idiots. This is our land. This is our home. America is our home. And right now, there's a concerted effort to replace us here with foreigners and immigrant blacks of immigrant background who cannot trace their lineage here and do not hold the passion and love of this country like we do, because we built this goddamn country. This is our country. So it's different from an immigrant. We are indigenous to this land. So when people tell that you're an African, you tell them to shut the hell up, because you're not African. You're not an African. And it's not you being ashamed of who you are. You're speaking in pride in who you are. You are a descendant of the Aboriginal Negroes over here. Period. I said before, Okani, Ogeechee, Geechee, Yuchi, Tallahassee, Kankakee. I talked about before how the similarities of those names, that is indigenous to the Americas. That's not African. That's indigenous to the Americas. And some of you Negroes can't take that, man. You don't want to hear that. You want to be just a damn slave from Africa, which is really sick, man. But I'm telling you Negroes, get a ferry and take your ass back to Africa then. Because we're not African, man. We are indigenous to this land. This is our land, which our ancestors built. This is our land. We are the culture to this country. Period. All forms of music in this country were invented by us. And all the sciences, that's us. So go to hell with that Pan-African nonsense. Peace.